The night was cold and the streets of New York glistened under the soft glow of streetlights. It was close to midnight, and the city, usually full of noise and chaos, seemed almost peaceful. Daniel Ross, a 52-year-old taxi driver, sat quietly behind the wheel of his yellow cab, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup. He'd been driving for nearly 30 years, long enough to learn that the streets never really slept and that every passenger carried a story. He didn't know it yet, but the story waiting for him that night would be one he'd never forget. The radio crackled to life, and a voice came through the static. "Pick up on 7th Avenue. Destination, Riverside Hospital." Daniel sighed, tossing the empty cup aside. "A hospital run this late," he muttered. "Never a good sign." When he pulled up to the curb, he saw a young woman standing alone under the rain. She had no umbrella, no jacket, just a simple blue dress, soaked and clinging to her. Her hair was plastered to her face, and she looked like someone who had been running. Daniel rolled down the window. "Need a ride, miss?" She nodded quickly, opening the back door and sliding in, dripping water onto the seat. Her hands shook as she held onto a small handbag. "Where to?" Daniel asked. "Riverside Hospital," she said softly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed her, full of worry and fear. Daniel started the car and glanced at her through the mirror. "You okay? You look like you've been through something." The woman hesitated before whispering, "My dad. He's in surgery. They said it doesn't look good." Daniel nodded slowly. "I'll get you there as fast as I can." For the first few minutes, the only sound was the hum of the engine and the patter of rain against the glass. Then out of nowhere, she spoke again. "Do you believe in signs, mister?" Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Signs?" "Yeah, like when life tries to tell you something, maybe through people, or moments that don't make sense until later." He thought about that for a second, eyes on the road. "I think life talks to us," he said, "but most people are too busy to listen." She gave a small, tired smile. "My dad used to say the same thing." Daniel smiled faintly. "Sounds like a wise man." She looked out the window, her reflection glowing faintly in the glass. "He is, or I hope he still is. He raised me alone after Mom died. He worked double shifts, never missed a school play. And I promised I'd visit last weekend, but I got busy. I thought there'd be more time." Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "There's never enough time," he said softly. The ride continued in silence for a while. The city lights blurred through the rain, making everything feel like a dream. Finally, she asked, "So what about you, mister? You've been quiet. What's your story?" Daniel let out a dry chuckle. "Not much to tell. Divorced, 2 kids, lost one of them, my son, 10 years ago. Drunk driver. Since then, it's just been me, this cab, and a whole lot of empty nights." Her eyes softened. "I'm so sorry." He shrugged. "You learn to live with it. But nights like this, they bring the memories back." They drove on, 2 strangers bound by grief and silence. Then suddenly the woman leaned forward. "Can you take a detour?" Daniel frowned. "We're almost at the hospital." "I know," she said quickly. "But there's somewhere I need to go first. Please, it won't take long." Daniel hesitated, checking the time. She looked desperate, not crazy, just determined. He sighed. "All right. Where to?" She gave him an address on the outskirts of the city, a quiet neighborhood with small houses and dim porch lights. When they got there, she asked him to wait. She stepped out into the rain and walked to one of the houses. Daniel watched her through the windshield as she left a small wrapped box and a note on the porch. A few minutes later, she climbed back in, tears streaming down her face. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded. "That was for my mom. She doesn't know about Dad yet. I didn't want her to wake up tomorrow to bad news without something to hold on to." Daniel's heart ached. "You've got a good heart, kid." She smiled weakly. "He taught me that." They started driving again. The city was quiet now, the kind of quiet that only came after the rain stopped. Then her phone rang. She grabbed it immediately. "Hello? Yes, this is Lily." Her expression froze. Daniel could see her hands trembling. Then suddenly, tears, but this time, tears of relief. He made it through surgery? Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. She pressed her hand to her mouth, laughing and crying all at once. Daniel smiled softly. That's good news, huh? Lily nodded, still crying. They said he had less than a 10% chance, but he made it. My dad's alive, Daniel grinned. Your old man sounds tough. He is, she said, wiping her tears. I think he's got someone up there looking out for him. When they reached the hospital entrance, Lily turned to him. How much do I owe you? Daniel shook his head. Nothing. She frowned. No, please, I can't. He interrupted her gently. You already paid me, Lily. You reminded me why I still do this. Her eyes welled up again. You're a good man, Daniel. I don't believe in coincidences. I think I was meant to get your cab tonight. Daniel smiled softly. Maybe you were. She stepped out, paused by the open door and said, Thank you for getting me there and for listening. Then she disappeared into the hospital. Daniel watched her go, the glow from the hospital lights reflecting on his windshield. He sat there for a long time before driving off into the quiet streets. 2 days later, Daniel was parked at his usual spot near Central Park when a nurse approached his taxi, holding a small white envelope. Are you Daniel Ross? She asked. He nodded, confused. Yeah. Why? This was left for you at Riverside Hospital. She handed it to him and walked away. Daniel opened it, and inside was a handwritten note. Dear Daniel, Dad's out of the ICU. The doctors say he'll make a full recovery. I told him about you, the kind driver who reminded me that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they drive taxis. Thank you for being there when I needed hope the most. With love, Lily Carter. Daniel smiled, reading it again and again. For the first time in years, he felt warmth in his chest, something he hadn't felt since his son died. He folded the letter carefully and placed it in the glove compartment next to an old photo of his boy. Then he started the engine. The city lights shimmered on the windshield as he drove off. In the rearview mirror, he could almost imagine Lily sitting there again, quiet, hopeful, alive. And in that moment, Daniel realized something. Every ride mattered, because sometimes you don't just take someone where they need to go, you help them find their way back to life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories like this one.